Okay, hi. Nice to see you all. Today we are going to have a discussion about startup accelerators. After the discussion, we are going to have a Q&A, so please prepare your questions in advance and then ask them later. Today, I'm very pleased to be on the stage with these 5 prominent men. So, gentlemen, could you please introduce yourselves?
Hello, hello. Yeah. I'm Marc Wesselnik. I'm from Startupbootcamp. We've accelerated 260 companies in the past 4 years. I started myself 12 companies in the past, failed 4 times, sold 2, had 1 IPO, but also 2 bankruptcies. So I know a little bit about starting up a business.
Impressive. Please give some applause.
Hi, my name is Don. I'm from RockStart, a startup company in Amsterdam. We've accelerated 60 companies in the past 3 years, and they raised 20 million in funding. And met a lot of interesting companies in the last couple of days, so I'm very excited to be here.
Hello,
Please
everyone.
give your applause.
Hi, everyone. I'm Arvydas Bložė, and I'm running the Startup.lt accelerator and the Practica Capital Seed Fund. So since we are a B2B accelerator, we accelerated 8 companies, and currently in the pipeline is 2 more. So only 10, not 200, not 60, but doing the good job, I believe.
Hi, I'm Erik. I'm from StartupWise, guys. We're also a B2B accelerator. Our portfolio is over 40 companies. I'm originally from Los Angeles, but I worked with Techstars in London, and I had my own company back in LA. But it wasn't a startup, it was more manufacturing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Darius Žakaitis. I represent StartupHighway. We launched first Baltic Accelerator 2011. So we were first, and we have a very interesting experience being newcomers in this market, and it's very nice to see what the ecosystem is growing, and we were a part of it. So.
Okay, thanks for the introductions. So let's not wait anything and jump into our discussion. Marc, could you open it up with a simple explanation what startup accelerators really are?
Officially, a startup accelerator is a program of around 3 to 4 months at the premises. So you need to be there at an office. And we will, or an accelerator will help you go from an idea to a product to a business, to an international business. And nowadays, an accelerator only accepts MVPs, so that you have more than an idea, and then it's really worth to accelerate your business too. So that's official, an accelerator program.
Okay.
And a lot of people are confusing incubators with accelerators. It's totally different.
Does anyone else have something to add?
I'm curious about the unofficial description of an accelerator.
There is no unofficial.
Okay, so perhaps during the years of your accelerator's operation, you already have gotten a clue why startups are ready to give away their equity to you. So Arvydas, maybe you could tell what is the real added value that they see in startup accelerators?
Okay, so yeah, it's a good question. Basically, the way I see accelerators is, first of all, the value proposition is kind of different in the regions. So Don and Marc, I think you have a bit different value proposition in Amsterdam, right? And back here, we kind of also are involved in strategic decisions, when to kill a project, when not to kill a project, when to pivot, when not to pivot, because our ecosystem is very young. But in general, if I would have to categorize the value proposition of accelerator startup, I would say it's, first of all, is the community, because you are working together with a batch of other startups, and you can share or look how other people or companies are solving the problem, and you're part of the community, which is alumni, startups, everyone is close to you. So it's really information sharing, kind of events together, motivating each other, working hard together. Another thing is, of course, the network that Accelerator has built around it. It's investors, mentors, corporates, government support. So you can partnerships with Google, with I don't know, Amazon Web Services, with Microsoft. So you come in and you get a whole package. And it's not up to Accelerator actually how you utilize it. It goes both ways. And probably the third thing is the curriculum or the kind of Accelerator program that they offer you. So they can teach you, they can do seminars, webinars, advise you on many different operational stuff, how also building a product, strategy, pitching, fundraising, and whatnot. So you're always like doing, like, I don't know, probably the good term would be MBA, but really packed into 3 months. Very, very fast, hands-on approach, and like drilling. Everyone is working around you. You are working on your startup, communicating with other people around you, talking with investors, talking with corporates, which can be early adopters. And so it's really a nice vibe that Accelerator gives to a startup. And if you can utilize it, you can kickstart your company and kind of move forward.
I'd just like to add something. It takes a community to raise a startup. And if you mentioned equity, it's really after you raise some money. The dilution is really minimal, but that entire community, the other founders in the program, all the government, the partnerships, and all the investors you meet, it's really a huge benefit.
I think there's only one question that you have to ask yourself when you're a startup and you're considering applying to an accelerator, and that is, will this program help me grow faster than if I would do it by myself in my own environment? So if you think that the program can help you 50% faster or 20% faster, and they take 5–8%, then it's probably a good business decision. If you're doubting, then I recommend you always talk to some of the alumni that maybe have similar challenge than you have and see if they would do it again. But it's a business decision, and a lot of the goals from people that started accelerators are about building a community and giving back to founders. But you as an entrepreneur have to think, okay, I can either do it by myself or I can do it with these guys or us, etc. And I think that's the fundamental decision that you have to make.
Thank you. So now that we know what startup accelerators are and what is the added value that they provide, Don, would you say that it's easy to replicate the model of a startup accelerator?
What do you mean exactly by replicating the model?
Basically building a new accelerator based on the model of Techstars, let's say.
It is and is not easy. So I think if you would ask any of the people here that it's not easy to build a community and to raise the funding and do all those things, because you need to be very selective in terms of who are the mentors that are giving advice and helping out, and you have to find investors that don't really care about the financial return, because if you come to think about the business model of an accelerator, it's quite challenging. You have to really have the best teams and have the best results if you want to make some money out of it. So I would say you can't start an accelerator in every city either. Like, there has to be some critical mass of amount of startup, amount of entrepreneurs who have done it before to make it happen. You cannot go to a small city in Lithuania and say, let's replicate the model there. So it can be done because it's being done all over the world. At the same time, you also have to ask, is it the right place to do it? And what will the success be of the accelerator?
What about the RockStart accelerator? How much time did it take to set it up?
It took us about a year to get it up and running.
All right, so that's a long time.
We like to take the approach that even the accelerator is a startup. So it's always constantly improving. You're always growing your network. It's not like you get it set up and it's this functioning thing. It takes a team. It takes a lot of work, and it's an evolution. It's a process.
Yeah, I perfectly agree with Erik, because like if a startup comes and to Accelerator, right, Accelerator becomes a shareholder, but Accelerator itself has shareholders or limited partners. We're also on the mission. And if we say to a startup that, think about product market fit, if we talk about replicating Accelerator, it's just the same. What works in the US or in Amsterdam may not work here. And it's just you have to fit find the right model in the right market, and it's not easy to replicate for sure.
That's a very good topic that you touched. I also wanted to ask if you see any differences between American and European accelerators. And if there are any, then which ones are better to join?
So, yeah, I can talk what's happening in the Baltics, and I guess I let the guys speak about Europe because they're much more involved into that, right? So, in the Baltic states, what we're dealing with is first-time founders. In the US, or I guess people coming into Accelerator have a kind of Accelerator offers different value proposition. So they can, even for second and fourth-time founders, they can really kickstart them very far away so that if they're a Series A or seed round, it's at a much higher valuation. And that founder could really understand the value proposition. So you don't have to kind of pitch him and talk about it, why you should enter. And back here, it's first-time founders. And usually, they come with a good idea, and we sometimes accelerate even pre-MVP ideas. So if we talk about business models, the US business model does not work in the Baltic states because we have to spend so much hands-on time and even translate what mentors are saying to the team. Because the mentors have 1, 2, 3 hours per week to talk with the team, and the team has to understand what the mentor is saying. So we usually are just participating in conversations and then saying, do this, following on. So I guess it's not the same as in the US, but.
I have a very simple statement. Screw the US. Because they have a total different startup culture than Europe. And there are lots of examples of European startups which were really successful in Europe and in the rest of the world without focusing on the US. So a lot of startups are asking, yeah, I want to enter the US, etc., etc., etc. And I always say, if you can't conquer your home market, stop bothering, wasting your time to go to the US. And people need to understand that. Europe is still the biggest market in the world. We have a bigger GDP combined than the US and then in China. So why go to the US if you also have the European market as your home market?
I don't necessarily disagree, but there is a lot more private money in the US, so you do spend a lot more time reporting, you do spend a lot more time here, depending upon the program. I disagree. There are a lot of angel networks out there who are really active, and if you know them, to find them, of course there are a lot of rich individuals in the United States. But I have a surprise, they are also in Europe. No,
so we have a lot of really active angel networks, and if you're able to connect with them, it is also good to find proper funding. And of course there is a bigger, higher valuation in the US, but it's also a cost of living. It's really expensive. A famous example of a Techstars alumni from New York, they went on taking 400K of funding, and they moved to Morocco. And they extended their runway by 3 times. Instead of staying in the US, they go to a country where they could lengthen their runway. So,
no, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. And actually, those guys are super nice. It's a really fun story. But no, I think our programs, we have to deal with a lot of European money, which makes reporting a lot more difficult. But another difference is you get a lot of founders from a lot of different countries in Europe, which I think is an awesome benefit. Like we have 10 companies from 7 different countries. Last program, we had 10 companies from 8 different countries. So you get more of a perspective with European accelerators. But I do think it's a very different culture, and you have to be smarter with how you're asking for money here than you are in the US.
Okay, so most of the startups accelerators have been created based on the model of those pioneering accelerators such as Y Combinator or Techstars. But probably not in all accelerators these models really work. So probably they are somehow being adapted to local needs. And Darius, maybe you see any trends nowadays? How accelerators are changing?
Yeah, I see some changes, of course. Because, when you're acting in a Baltic, such a small market, you need to be very creative to continue these activities and compete with guys from Amsterdam, London, or United States. So of course, you adopt your program. You can make it longer or shorter. You can help after program with incubation, with I don't know, many things, and you sometimes you need to follow on with investments. You need to find your private money to keep them going if you trust. So it's I think it's with every team is different story. Now you need to be very lean. You need to understand what. When we started 2011, we take an example of rules from Techstars, and we were thinking, but yeah, you can use it. You have mentors from London, and they told you how they run an accelerator in London, and it was, it's very easy. We will adopt. Now, you need to adopt every time. I think, of course, and on a website you publish your general terms, but every time you need to adapt and to look new ways how to help this team, how attract this. For example, last year we created an idea to build a tech park Vilnius in order to attract more talented teams. We think that it will be our exception, our marketing tool to attract the best teams from the London, to creating a, ecosystem, perfect tech park in one place, and based on that, we will let's say attract teams and compare this project to our accelerator program is much bigger. So we pivot ourselves. So I don't know.
And it's not that the model is still the same also in the US. And of course, the model of a bike is already 200 years old. But each bike is totally different. Look at those guys here. They now added a big electronical engine to it, and the bike can propel in 100 k's an hour. And that's also what you need to do. So you can pick the model, but you need to adapt it. So in Startupbootcamp, we changed it more in the vertical. So we have different cities. Amsterdam, we have e-commerce. Yeah? So only e-commerce related startups. In London, financial tech, because London is one of the financial hubs in the world. Singapore, same, also a financial technology. So you need to adapt to the local needs. And that's what we do. And that's what you need to do as an accelerator program.
True. Really, it's important to understand that an accelerator is a part of a VC chain, a venture capital chain, or money flow, and also at the same time, it's a part of startup life cycle. So you have to all the time figure out where the money is flowing, what is actually trending, and at the same time, how to help a startup to do that, because we are just in the early stage of a startup life, and we are also delivering value to later investors. Should it be corporates? Should it be venture capitalists? So we serve a purpose. We serve a purpose, and we have all the time to figure out what our model is. The best teams in Lithuania, they can go to Startupbootcamp, they can go to RockStart, they can go to a Y Combinator, because if the team is really brilliant, they can do it. It's no one is stopping them to do it, and they can do it, and they can apply. So we are here in the Baltic States should really have a very strong value proposition to them. So we analyze, and we have to adopt, evolve all the time to bring the best talent people together, everyone around our ecosystem, like guys from Y-Plan, guys from Vinted, to help us to keep the company here, and maybe afterwards bring them to European accelerators that can help them, or European VCs that can invest straight into companies that we've accelerated.
Okay, so we talked now a lot about startup accelerators. Let's talk about the teams who are entering startup accelerators. Marc, I know you are kind of selection master at Startupbootcamp. So would you say that any startup can enter an accelerator, or are there any specific guidelines that they should meet?
So having started myself 12 companies, I know, and also failed. And I know exactly where I failed. And now in Amsterdam, we've accelerated 60 companies, and in total with Startup Bootcamp, 260 companies. So we know. And what we see, the best time to enter an accelerator program is team. Now, I nowadays call them the 4 M's of Marc. So management, so the team is really important. The model is also really important. Yeah. The market, how big is the market? Is it accessible also through our accelerator? And 4, momentum. Momentum is one of the key things in starting a business. I started a business in 2000, which is now really popular, but nobody gives a really about it in 2000. So we had the wrong momentum. Luckily, we had the stamina, and it became successful at the end of 2010. But we had the luck that we had the stamina to sustain it for 10 years. Can you imagine? 10 years. That's a lot of time. So momentum is really important. So if a startup enters an accelerator, he also needs to have those 4 validated. Yeah? And they need to have a minimal viable business product. So not a minimal viable product with a few mock-ups, but it's already a product where you can make money with. And then you can propel them.
Okay,
and early, it's too soon.
You cannot accelerate only ideas.
No. No.
Arvydas, to put it into simple words, is it still cool to go to an accelerator, or do startups think that it's kind of old school?
I think in the Baltic states it's cool to be a startupper. Everyone wants to be a startupper. Whereas I guess in Western European countries is a bit different, because you have alternative. You're a good engineer, you can get like 6-figure check from BMW or Audi or work there. And for a startup, it takes certain mentality. And back here, it is cool to be a startupper. Therefore, it's cool to go into accelerator for sure. Yeah, if you know what you're there for, you don't need to be cool. You're here. You're not here to be cool. You're here to do business. You're here to grow. You're here to change the world. So, and after you've done that, it's cool.
Okay, Don, is it the same in Netherlands?
I don't know. I think there's a startup trend that people are coming out of university and wanting to have their own thing, to do their own thing. I think there was a presentation right here to not be like the wannabe entrepreneur. Like you have people at parties that have a job, but they also have like 3 startups, like more ideas they're working on the side. That doesn't work. Like I think there's a great blog post from Marc Suster. It's called Entrepreneur Shit. And it talks about the kind of up and downs of running a startup and the responsibility and also the mental pressure that it puts on you. And I've seen it with a lot of the companies that we've had as well. Like some people, after a while, they become depressed. Like it's not for everyone. And sometimes the only way to find out is to start it and to burn it and to think, oh, maybe I should go to work for a corporate. And I completely agree that it doesn't really matter if it's cool or not to run a company. You want to build something, to create something that you're incredibly passionate about, and that should be all that matters.
Okay, so Erik, the question for you then. I personally think that it's a myth that accelerators are meant only for youngsters. So what's the average age of the founders that participate in accelerators?
Yeah, it's definitely a myth. We have two founders in this current batch that are over the age of 50. And I would say that they've worked as hard and they have the experience to learn from. But then they're also, I mean, they've accepted the fact that they need to become open-minded, and they accepted the fact that it's not done how it was 30 years ago. And I would say that they've learned as much as anybody. And they've actually been able to grow their business. And I mean, to listen to someone who's 26, if you're 55 and you've had a successful company in the past, it takes a specific type of person. And to go back to the previous question about being, is it cool to be in an accelerator? I think it depends on the culture of the company and if they're willing to work in a community and if they're willing to work on people. And I think that has a big part to do with it.
Okay, then maybe I would like to ask Darius one more question. Are accelerators only meant for like very early stage startups, for real, or do mature startups also join accelerators? Do they get any value?
Of course, they can get value, mature teams too, but it's not very common in Lithuania, especially in Lithuania. We were trying to promote the special program for more mature teams, but we take less equity, but it was not successful. Yeah, unfortunately, mature teams founders sometimes think that they know everything already, and the reality is a little bit different, but for them it's difficult to accept, difficult to understand, but yeah, guys young guys like Erik and other can teach them something in their life. So it's still opportunity, big opportunity, but in Lithuania, I think mature companies didn't use this opportunity. I think Accelerator is a great. I was doing sports when I was young, and I remember that the best results when you are in a sport camp. Yeah, because when you are in a sports camp like 4 weeks before the season, or before the I don't know, big competition, you are really concentrating. You are working on a program. It's the best thing. And when you start to think like this, you understand. But it doesn't matter how good your company even is. To use Accelerator is a great thing. But you need to be an open person.
So last program, we accelerated an old executive team of Cisco. The CEO was 56. Jackson was 48, Paul was 47, and the other guy was 44. And they were able to learn tremendously during the program, and they're now all over the place with their Wunderbar. They built like an IoT stuff. And that's an amazing example of a team enters an accelerated program, takes everything out of it, and also execute really fast. Because it's all about execution after an accelerated program. So, and during that program, the youngest was 18. So you can imagine what happens on the floor.
Yeah, I think accelerators are a great way to restart your thinking.
Yeah, and actually, 500 Startups does accelerate companies after seed round. And for us, we accelerate companies in search for pivot after basically utilizing all the seed round. It's also that accelerators can fully do.
Okay, thanks. So maybe we can now move on a little bit from the teams to ideas. And I guess that it's every accelerator's dream to catch a unicorn, right? So I know it's extremely difficult and probably almost impossible to invest in a unicorn. So the question would be, how do you really select the ideas? And is there any secret how to recognize if it can be a future unicorn?
I disagree. It's not about finding a unicorn. What do you think is more important? 200 good startups or 1 unicorn?
Well, probably there are advantages in both.
Is it?
Yeah.
I disagree. Because those 200 nice startups, which are doing fine, don't forget that 70% of the global employability is based on SMEs, small and medium-sized companies. Those are the foundation of the global economy. And don't focus on the unicorn, because it's a 1 in a chance, 1 in a million. It's everybody, oh, unicorn, unicorn. Stop bullshitting, because there are thousands and thousands medium-sized companies which are much larger than that 1 unicorn. So I think it's more important to accelerate or to help a lot of small and medium-sized companies, and hopefully one of them get a unicorn. But if you start looking for a unicorn, I have a surprise for you. You will never find one.
I disagree with you.
Cool. Why?
Well, At least what we try to do with RockStart is not per se look for the unicorn, but we like to look for really disruptive business ideas. The startups that can really either go really big or go completely bust. Usually it's B2C kind of companies with a startup in 3D printing, a startup a lot of times also in the sharing economy, and we really believe in this as a trend. So we have one company that is called Peerby, and you can rent stuff from people in your neighborhood through an app. So their premise is that it's crazy that you have in a neighborhood a lot of drills, ladders, tents that you only use once a year. And when they started, a lot of our investors said, well, that's just kind of a non-for-profit idea, like that will not really amount to anything. And I think if you look now in the Netherlands and in the Benelux, like how many people use this on a daily or on a weekly basis, it's a really disruptive concept. And it's still the question, okay, will they go really big, or how can they make money? They have a business model now. But to try to help those kind of ideas that also fundamentally change the way we maybe consume or behave, that's something that we're deeply excited about, and hopefully those will become unicorns. But if they have a good impact on a specific area in business or in society, then we're happy as well.
Yeah, well, there are companies who already stopped chasing the unicorns, and hunting them. For example, Rocket Internet. They are just taking the proven business models and they're creating, something similar, cloning them. So is this the way to go?
There are a lot of ideas out there, but those guys are really good in execution part and really quickly scale it to countries where nobody wants to enter in. Yeah? Africa and Asia. Everybody was focusing on the US, and they said, hey guys, copy, start, execute, find the right people. They did a fantastic job on that. So what's wrong with it?
Not saying
fantastic.
It's wrong, I'm just
exactly.
asking.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's the execution part that's really, they were really great at it. So fantastic job for that.
I think the comparison is not so much with accelerators, because at an accelerator we don't start businesses. We try to find entrepreneurs and help them become successful. So we cannot influence how they do this. What I think is the trend that is happening is that there are a lot more startup studios. So kind of few entrepreneurs, people together that raise some money, and they try to launch different business ideas. And I think that is very much inspired by the success of Rocket Internet. But I think I'm curious to see how that will work 5 years from now. I see it a lot in emerging economies as well, that people have maybe a little bit more confidence to invest in somebody who's done it before and is trying to do it again. But I think the guys from Rocket Internet, well, you can say what you want about their business practices, but they have a lot of experience with a specific type of business. And they have an insane amount of metrics and experience in their community to really rapidly scale up. And they're taking big bets, and they have also the big pockets to fund it. And I think there's very few companies and even venture builders that are equipped with those kind of skills, competencies, and capital to do it. Because I think Zalando, I'm not sure, but I think maybe right now they're profitable, but maybe they're still losing money. It's the kind of Amazon type of mindset that this is a 10-year trajectory. But if you launch a company with a 10-year trajectory, you have to have very deep pockets.
Okay, so recently I have read an article in TechCrunch, again, about the unicorns and how they are born. And apparently, every major wave of technology innovation has given a rise to one or few super unicorns. During the last 4 decades, there were 4 super unicorns born: Apple, Facebook, Cisco, and Amazon. My question is, since you see so many ideas and probably trends, what is going to be the next fundamental technology in the next decade? Well, be it wearable technology, Internet of Things, mobile-first products.
I mean, you can look at what Elon Musk is doing right now, the technology, battery technology that they're doing, and renewable energy. And if you look at the drought that's going on in California, just access to resources is going to be an issue. So maybe something where the fundamental shift that you don't necessarily have a faucet to turn on water. You have to desalinate the water to get access to resources just to live. And you can see these trends happening all around the world. So I think it's going to be a fundamental switch to survival at some point, because that's essentially what we all want to do. It could be a little conspiracy theory, or it could be a little out there, but that's what I think.
And I think the unicorn, the next unicorn will be that a lot of people, youngsters, are not working for a company, but are able to start their own company. And that is going to be the biggest disruptive in the next 10 years. Nowadays, you don't need a lot of money to start a business. Yeah? And you can really easy test it and reach out to your customers globally. So if you want to deliver a product to a Chinese, you can do it. So I believe that is going to be the disruption. So not like a big unicorn, but a lot of small unicorns.
I think, I cannot see the future, of course, but there's a few trends that I see happening that I would like to have happen in the next decade. One of them is education. So I think a lot of us have a very personal kind of feeling, or a lot of times frustration with education and going through a very old-fashioned bureaucratic system. I see we've done a lot of edtech investment, but I see a lot of people starting those type of companies now, and it's very difficult because the system is old and usually there's some resistance, but I think it will take maybe a decade. But then I think our children, some of you might have children, but the children will go to school hopefully in a much better way, and will be much better challenged and fulfilled, and hopefully lead on to fulfill lives, maybe create startups in a different way than we had the chance to before. I think that will be hopefully a trend that will become reality. I think another one is energy. So we have a smart energy accelerator because we believe there's an energy transition going to happen, that maybe all our houses will be energy self-sufficient. Tesla did a big announcement the other day also on that field. So I think that's also a sector where there's a lot of resistance from old big incumbents. And if you look at different sectors where there's already disruption have taken place, it's only time until things will fundamentally change. And I think there's a lot of these areas, maybe it's not the new things like Internet of Things, but it's more like the old systems where there's already a lot of money that will fundamentally be disrupted.
Yeah, and I think Singularity University is kind of looking after that topic, talking about what's going to be a big thing in the future. And I think most of the things were mentioned, just agriculture and fintech. They're also saying that agriculture will be kind of all the meat and vegetables or grain will be grown in probiotic environment rather than pesticides and whatnot. So it's going to change the way we kind of what we eat, and we will eat healthier. And also fintech is meaning that we also see how the payments are changing at the moment, how credit cards are changing, and the banks will have to change. And also like Bitcoins and what's happening there, something must happen in that space as well, like decentralization of how money is made.
Okay, so then how do business ideas pivot? Are they, do usually initial ideas pivot, or do they pivot after some time when they are, modified? Darius, maybe you could as well say something from StartupHighway's perspective.
Yeah, they pivoting for sure. Most our successful startups, they came up with one idea and they ended up with totally different or very different from the beginning. You need to pivot if your initial idea is not working, so you need to do something. Why is very important team on selection, because when you're selecting a startup into your program, you need to think what you need to work with this guy at least 5 years, and you need to build a trust between you and this team, and you need to, I don't know, have a feeling, are these guys can run long distance, and yeah, it's really challenging. So I think the team team is the core of a success, and all other things is you can change. You can change everything. You can change pivot idea. You can find new employees. You can find mentors, advisors, investors. Doesn't matter, but the core must be what you trust.
So I even started a business where we wanted to build food blocks for baby food. And it changed into a group buying platform for communities. Talking about a pivot.
Yeah, okay, so they
And
changed.
it was all about the team. So the team was able to, together, changed it from the other one to the other one. And they're now really successful in Europe since 2008. So it's all about the team.
So what are the perfect qualities of the team then?
The most important part is, are they able to change or kill their darlings? It's a popular way of phrasing it. And a lot of people who are starting a business, they want to become like a blue something. And they will only want to become a blue something. And if you hear from all your customers along the way that nobody is really waiting for blue, but I want to have orange, and that guy still says, no, I want to make a blue thing. Okay, let's try, but after 5 years of still having to hear, well, I want to have an orange, then you're not a really good entrepreneur, then you really are a stupid guy. So kill your darlings is the most important part. And then, of course, not only by one person, but many other persons. I always like 3 founder teams. I believe in triangles: product, business, and developer. And that's my most successful startups in the past. I also had a 2 founder team, which I think 4 of my failures of the 12 were all issues with teams and wrong team. So there you go.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I guess it's an old example, but Nokia actually started as a tire manufacturer and then shifted to producing mobile phones. So it's kind of very big pivot. But you know, for a startup, pivot or persevere is actually everyday decision. So you shouldn't be blind to what your consumers are saying, to what your market is saying, what your product is structured. So every day you should make a decision based on data, not on some kind of gut feeling. It's what really determines the, I believe, what really determines the best startups kind of to make informed decision, to pivot, persevere with a strategy to achieve your vision. And it's very easy to sit here and preach about it, use the Erik terminology, right? But it's really important to collect right metrics, to look at the right metrics, to understand what drives your evaluation, and to understand what your users are saying. And if you can do it correctly, then pivot is not something bad. It's actually a way to achieve your vision.
What I would like to add to that is that nothing is always what it is. So you can say, look at the data and pivot, etc. But then there's Apple, and then they launch things that nobody knows the world needs, and they launch it. So nothing is certain. What I think, I completely agree with the comments from Marc about the team, and I think the essence is to really learn very fast. But a lot of times, the elements for me are not really what it means to be an entrepreneur or how to start a business. It's also very fundamental things of what it means to be an individual or a person. Just to trust your instinct, be honest, keep your word, like do what you preach. So it's a lot more fundamental qualities as a person as well, even though there are some people that have been very successful that maybe not have the right business ethics. So it's again, there's an exception to everything. So one of it is also be always critical to what people say and trust your own instincts at the same time.
Erik, maybe you could as well tell what are the factors that define accelerator success? For example, last year 2 American professors made a research and they made a ranking system for US accelerators. So those factors were the number of exits, like the value of portfolio, the percentage of teams that are still up and running, and the overall experience of the program. What else would you add?
If you look at like what Arvydas said, it's about being a part of the ecosystem, and it's about building pipeline for other people. We look at Startup-Wise guys as we have a few different customers, right? So we have corporate partners, we have investors, and then we have the startups. So what quantifies success for the startup when they come out of the program? And then that kind of leads into what's a successful accelerator for an investor. And then how do the corporate partners continue to work with us? So we need all the support from all of the ecosystem. So I think if you take bottom line, yeah, of course, it's number of exits. But then are you producing healthy companies? Like what Marc was saying, like 200 healthy companies. Are you producing quality founders? Because also accelerators, the investors behind that, a lot of times they don't see success from the startups in that program. But the founders go on and learn a lot from that program and maybe go and do a successful thing afterwards. So is it like NPS? Are people going to recommend you? Are other startups going to recommend you after the program? So I mean, it's a pretty nebulous question. But there's a lot of factors that could be considered success.
Do you know, any of you, any good global accelerator stories, success stories?
How many do you need? There are many.
At least one.
Only, I always tell a story about a lady from Ljubljana, and she was on a day pitching at an event in Berlin, and she invented like a Bella watch, and it's like a small device which you plug in to your iPhone, and then pregnant women can listen to their unborn child. I see you already looking at it. And we helped her, put her in a program in Berlin, went to Pioneers, went to YC, and they're now selling 25 million euro of those devices per year. And that's, I think, a nice success story. And now they brought, I think, 4 or 5 different devices, really smooth design, etc., etc., etc. I think that's a compelling story. She was only a daughter of a farmer in Ljubljana. Fantastic story.
And maybe you could also share, each of you, but quickly, because we will soon run out of time, any good success stories that you're proud of from your own experience, from your own accelerators?
This was an example. So I already told mine.
Okay, so maybe then others.
One that I really like is called 3D Hubs. So they're a marketplace for connecting 3D print owners and people want to have something 3D printed. So these were 2 guys working for one of the largest 3D printing manufacturers in the world. And they had this idea and they pitched it to their boss and he said, well, not so interesting. And then they said, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. So they quit their jobs and they had this first few hubs in Amsterdam. And they had, for example, a use case we thought was very, very funny of a guy who was a professional photographer and he needed a special tripod for a wedding that he was shooting. And he could order it for like 50 or 100 euros in the Netherlands or in the US. And it was very time consuming. And he found the model online, 3D printed it for 15 euros and he picked it up from a 10-year-old kid who had a 3D printer at home with his dad. And yeah, it was a very nice story. And from kind of those experiences of people really creating things and exchanging it on their platform, they grew to 15,000 hubs in 150 countries in 2 years' time. And they raised 4.5 million euros and they started an office in New York. So they really managed to go global very fast. So I think it's one of our favorite stories.
So for us, it's today, of course, it's CG Trader, which the founder Marius came in with a problem he faced working with other CG model marketplaces that they charge a lot of commission and it's very expensive for a creator to put a model and the money he gets is actually they take a lot of cut from the transaction, right? So he built a marketplace. He received attraction. He came to us. When we started talking with it, we saw that actually 3D printing is emerging. So we kind of decided to explore it into that direction. And yeah, so far it's a great success. They are growing very much. Models are increasing. Space is interesting. They're enabling the whole ecosystem. So it's, I guess, yeah, we just found the right kind of pivot that was very close. And so far it's been a great journey.
I think one of our more interesting and successful companies is called Vital Fields. And the guy, the founder, he had a lot of friends and family who were in agriculture in the Nordics. And seasonality really affected their crops. And he had a good background in analytics. And he decided to build an analytics platform for agriculture in the Nordics. And they've done quite well. And now they're getting ready to go into other markets. I've only been in the program for 2 batches. I'm really excited about the companies we have, and I think it's these past experiences have a really good reputation for you. But we have the exciting companies now. It's like you kind of have the focus on the future as opposed to like after they leave the program, what's actually going on.
Probably our most interesting startup what we funded is a company named Place I Live, and it was really interesting story. The guys came to the program with idea to have a life quality kind of a index of each house, each property in Lithuania to help sell better for real estate agents. This was very local idea, very local product, local brand, everything. But during the 4 years what we are together with this team, they pivoted to international market and we created a life quality index. And yeah, they launched in New York, San Francisco, Chicago, London, Berlin, and it's really seems to picking up. And if we will manage from Lithuania to scale this idea globally and have a life quality index for each property in the world, like we have EMBD for the movies or Booking.com for the hotels, which is already common, but for your property address still nothing in a place. So I think it will be the greatest success story in Lithuania what we can create, and it's funny what it was made here, and it's very social responsible how it's very popular now, and it's really adding value, and it's I think great idea.
All right, thanks very much for sharing. Do we have any questions from the audience? No questions. Oh, one question. Coming.
Have you ever been tempted to do a startup yourself? Or are you tempted? Or will you make that move?
I already did it 12 times, so I'm fine, thank you. Maybe my colleagues, I don't know. You look long enough. Don't you want to start your own company and show that you're capable of doing it yourself?
Yeah, actually, it would be very interesting. I have some ideas, but seeing what it takes to execute, right? I'm a bit afraid.
So frankly.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult as managing an accelerator to deal with 10 people at a time who are really passionate and really driven at their companies. Personally, for me, I've used this experience as like an MBA process. Work with investors, work with founders, see what works, see what doesn't. So the problem is you get a little jaded. You see like, oh, that won't work or that will work, and it's you get this perspective on the situation. But yeah, I'm really excited actually. It's probably closer than I think.
Well, RockStart is my startup, so I've started it a few years ago, and I went through all the painful process of raising funding. Actually, a lot of different times for each of the programs I had to raise the funding, so it's not a kind of technology scalable startup, but it is, yeah, you have the challenge of growing a team, hiring people. We are 30 people now in the team, so sometimes I see some of the companies and they grow very fast and said, okay, maybe in the future life I will do that. But for now, it's very inspiring to work with a lot of new companies every year and to help them, and you see so many different patterns happening. So the value that I can bring to those companies is, I think, very, very big now. So that's always the trade-off.
Yeah, I started in 1988, so it's pretty long ago. So at least 10 companies founded myself, but of course the most challenging now is a new startup is Vilnius Tech Park. So I again feeling startupper myself. So yeah, it's nice thinking.
Any more questions? No? Okay, then let's wrap up our discussion. And for the final thoughts, please make it very, very short, like 1 or 2 sentences. I have a very final question for you. Are we still going to talk about startup accelerators after 5 years?
No. Because then it's become common. I think accelerators will be a part of any ecosystem, and we don't talk about it, but we execute on it. Stop talking, start executing.
Okay.
I pass.
Yes, definitely, yes.
I probably agree with Marc.
I think it will be big changes. You never know what will happen after 5 years. From 2011, there's so many changes we saw in Lithuania. So
it's hard to predict.
Yeah, it's hard to predict.
Okay, thank you very much. It was really awesome to spend this hour with you. I heard a lot of great insights. Give your applause, please.